What happens when one of Hollywood's most beloved actresses sits down for what should be a friendly chat, only to face a barrage of disrespectful questions that cross every line imaginable? In just 34 seconds, a respected television host would destroy her own reputation with comments so outrageous that the entire studio audience would gasp in disbelief. It began just like any other morning on the talk show. The studio lights glowed softly, the cameras were positioned, and the audience murmured with anticipation. The hosts were already seated behind their desk, smiles ready, energy high. Nothing seemed unusual, nothing suggested that the situation was about to spiral completely out of control. Kate Winslet walked onto the stage with her signature grace. A warm smile, a polite wave, a poised presence. The audience immediately erupted into applause. She wore a simple blue dress, elegant yet understated, the kind of effortless class she was known for. This was supposed to be a promotional interview, light conversation about her newest film role. Nothing more, nothing less. Denise Welch sat in the center of the host's panel. At first glance, she looked welcoming, smiling, leaning forward, engaging. But there was a sharpness behind her eyes, something unspoken but unmistakably pointed. "Kate, lovely to have you here," Denise said, and the audience clapped again. The first few minutes were harmless enough. Weather, travel to the studio, light laughter. Kate's voice carried kindness, humility, appreciation. But beneath the surface, there was a slow shift. The mood tightened. Denise changed her posture, leaned in further, her smile thinning. "So, Kate, I have to ask," she began, her tone shifting like a knife sliding out of a sheath. "You've been in this industry for decades now. Do you ever feel like you're past your prime? Like maybe it's time to step aside for younger actresses?" The air in the room froze. You could hear the silence. The other hosts stiffened in their seats. Someone in the audience actually gasped. Kate's smile faltered, just briefly. But she recovered, poised as ever. "I believe there is room for everyone in this industry," she said calmly. "Talent does not have an expiration date. I am grateful to still be doing work that I love." It was a perfect answer, dignified and graceful. But Denise hadn't asked a question for an answer. She had asked it to provoke. And she wasn't done. Kate's response had been calm, thoughtful, and perfectly composed, the kind of reply that should have ended the line of questioning. The audience even gave a small supportive applause, appreciating her grace. But Denise didn't pause. She didn't soften. Instead, she leaned in further, determined to push the conversation into confrontation. "Right, but let's be realistic," Denise said, her voice carrying a sharper edge now. "Hollywood is obsessed with youth. You're what? Almost 50 now? Don't you think audiences want to see fresh faces instead of the same actresses they've been seeing for years?" Several people in the audience shifted uncomfortably. One of the other hosts quickly stepped in, attempting to defuse the tension. "I think what's wonderful about Kate is that she continues to prove that great acting transcends age," the co-host said warmly. "Her career shows." But Denise immediately cut her off with a dismissive wave of the hand. "I'm just being honest," she insisted, turning back to Kate. "It's what everyone's thinking." Kate's expression changed then. The warmth drained from her eyes, replaced by a controlled, quiet strength. She sat a little straighter in her seat. "With respect, Denise," Kate replied, her voice steady and clear. "I don't think everyone is thinking that. And reducing an actress to her age is exactly the kind of outdated thinking this industry needs to move past." The audience applauded, louder this time, stronger, supportive. But the applause only seemed to fuel Denise's irritation. Her jaw tightened. She spoke again, sharper now, no pretense of politeness left. "Oh, come on," she said, rolling her eyes. "Don't be so sensitive. I'm just asking the questions people actually want to know. Not everything has to be politically correct to make you comfortable." Kate took a slow, deep breath. You could tell she was choosing her words carefully, not because she was unsure, but because she refused to respond with the same hostility being directed at her. "There is a difference," Kate said, her tone calm but firm, "between being politically correct and being a respectful human being. I came here to talk about my work, about the film I've poured my heart into, not to be told I'm too old to do it." The audience began clapping again, louder, longer. One of the other hosts, desperate to bring the interview back from disaster, jumped in quickly. "Kate, your new film sounds extraordinary. Could you tell us more about it? Kate turned gratefully and began explaining the story. The emotional depth of the role, and the room began to breathe again. But Denise wasn't finished. Not even close. For a brief moment, it looked like the interview might recover. Kate spoke about her new film with genuine passion, the struggles of the character, the emotional heart of the story, the lessons the film hoped to share. The audience was engaged again, listening closely, grateful the conversation had returned to where it was meant to be. But Denise couldn't stand it. The attention, the warmth, the respect shifting toward Kate. It was as though Kate's composure irritated her more than any argument could have. So she cut Kate off mid-sentence. "I'm sure it's lovely," Denise said, her voice dripping condescension. "But let's be real here. How much of this film is about the art? And how much is about you trying to stay relevant? Because from where I'm sitting, it feels a little desperate." Gasps. Actual gasps. Even the camera operators froze. The audience stared, some mouths open, some shaking their heads in disbelief. The other hosts looked horrified. Kate stopped speaking. Her entire expression changed. Not dramatic, not emotional, but sharp, controlled, precise. She turned slowly and faced Denise directly. "Excuse me?" Kate asked, her voice low, steady, absolutely clear. "You heard me," Denise said, doubling down now that she had committed to the attack. All these older actresses clinging to their careers, taking roles that should go to younger women. It's like watching someone who just can't accept their time has passed. One of the co-hosts actually stood up from her chair. "Denise, that is completely out of line." But Denise ignored her entirely. Her eyes locked on Kate like this was some kind of victory. "I'm just saying what everyone is thinking," Denise repeated, louder this time. Kate didn't react with anger, which somehow made the moment even more powerful. She sat perfectly still for a second, letting the silence settle. Then she spoke, and when she did, every word was razor-sharp with dignity and control. "I have spent my entire career fighting to be taken seriously as an actress," Kate said. "I fought against this exact kind of sexist, ageist thinking. And I certainly did not come here today to be insulted by someone whose entire on-screen persona seems to depend on tearing other women down." The audience erupted. Cheers, applause, some people even stood. Denise's face went red. "How dare you?" Denise snapped. "This is my show. You're a guest here. You will show some respect." Kate actually laughed, not cruelly, but in disbelief. "Respect?" Kate replied. "You have done nothing but disrespect me since I sat down. If you don't like it, you can leave," Denise hissed. Kate nodded once. "You know what? I think I will." She began unclipping her microphone, not shaking, not flustered, calm. The audience watched in total silence. The studio was no longer just tense, it was electric. Every eye was glued to Kate as she stood up, microphone in hand. But she didn't rush. She didn't storm. She didn't raise her voice. She moved with the same calm grace she had walked in with. And that silence, that steady, unshakable composure, was louder than any argument could have been. Denise, on the other hand, was unraveling. She pushed her chair back abruptly, the legs scraping loudly across the studio floor. "Security!" Denise shouted toward the control booth. "Get her out of here." The audience reacted instantly, a wave of boos, disbelief, even outrage. People were shaking their heads, calling out, "No, and this is wrong." Kate paused, holding her microphone loosely now, her expression still completely controlled. "I don't need security," she said softly. But her voice carried through the entire studio. "I am perfectly capable of leaving a situation that has clearly lost any sense of professionalism." She placed the microphone gently on the table in front of her. The click of it touching the glass surface was strangely loud. One of the other hosts reached out and lightly touched Kate's arm. "Kate, we are so sorry," she said, her voice full of embarrassment and regret. "This isn't what we wanted. This isn't who we are." Kate met her eyes, and her expression softened just enough to show she understood. "I know," she replied quietly. "This wasn't your doing. But I can't stay." Denise was still fuming, still standing, still trying to hold on to control that had slipped away from her completely. "This is unbelievable," she muttered loudly. "The disrespect, the nerve." Kate turned back, not angrily, not dramatically, but with a level, clear, human steadiness. "Denise," she said, and the entire room stilled again. I've been in this industry long enough to recognize insecurity when I see it. Whatever is behind the hostility you brought to this conversation, I truly hope you find a way to resolve it. Because this, she gestured around the studio, the chaos, the tension, the fractured energy, is not strength. It's just sad. The audience erupted, applause, cheers, some even standing. Kate walked off the stage, and the contrast was undeniable. Kate, calm, dignified, respected. Denise, isolated, angry, exposed. The camera cut to the remaining hosts, sitting in stunned silence. One of them swallowed hard before managing a shaky line. "We're going to take a quick break." But everyone watching already knew. The break wouldn't fix this. The show wouldn't recover from this. And Denise Welch had crossed a line that would follow her far past this episode. Kate had lost nothing. But Denise? She had lost everything that mattered.